What's up, everybody? Jensen Cummings here. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. It's Tuesday. It's Tuesday, right? I tried to put out the trash this morning, Jesse, because I don't even know what day it is. Our trash doesn't come for 2 days. Anyway, Jesse Torres, bar manager at American Elm in Denver, Colorado. Jesse, thanks for taking some time, my friend.
Jensen, thank you so much for having me here. It's really great to be here. It's a beautiful Tuesday out here in Denver. It's sunny. I took my trash out this morning, went for a run. So far, not too bad. So, just trying to be positive and, keep things going.
I love it. That's what we're going to talk about. Your energy is infectious for sure. And so we're going to use that word infectious and turn it into a positive, which I really like. And so I want you to take us back. I can't believe it's been coming up on 8 weeks now that, restaurant shutdowns and stay-at-home orders, all this stuff that we're supposed to know what the hell that means. But for hospitality, it's been really a challenge because we can't interact with people. You're supposed to be behind the stick, interacting with people at the bar, educating them, inspiring them, creating those experiences. And you can't do that right now. And so take us back, what's happening at American Elm. You've been doing curbsides. You've got some of your team working and things like that. So kind of take us back the journey of the last 7-8 weeks.
Yeah, I guess my story, echoes so many other stories that, I've heard and I've seen people go through, and just basically the whole industry in general. Here in Denver, we had the order to close for dining guests back, I think it was March 16th. It was a Monday. Yeah. That was our last service. I bartended that night, and then the next day, that was it. We unfortunately, had to lay off most of the staff, most of the front of house staff, bartenders, servers, because as just simple business, you can't pay people if you don't have money. And right then, not being open, you lose a significant chunk of your money, to even operate, to even pay electricity and rent. And it's very unfortunate, and it's probably one of the hardest things that I've had to be a part of in my life, not just in my restaurant life, and other parts too, because as a bar manager, and I used to be an owner too of a bar in San Antonio, but you have people depend on you, and people's livelihoods, people's passion, they all depend on you as a leader, as a bar manager, as an owner, to be there to help them. I guess for a lot of us, this is a bit more than just work. We really have a huge passion for this, and we enjoy hospitality, and we enjoy entertaining and motivating people and helping people. Really, at the end of the day, that's what we do. And it's just so awful to have to do that. Because we just can't provide that same source of income or same kind of foundation for people. And that was like the hardest thing. But we knew right out from the get-go that we wanted to succeed, and we wanted to do our best to maintain people when we could, hopefully make it through this as a business and not be forced to shut down permanently, and to be able to bring people back on as soon as we could. So as soon as we got the order, we went like into contingency mode, and we worked on plans and to seeing what we could do to keep this place open. And almost 2 months in, we've done, I think, a pretty good job. We've successfully developed a good takeout delivery program. We've done cocktails to go. We've done meal kits. We're starting to do other things like smoothies and juices. And we were fortunate enough to. Oh, I think I'm starting to get robot-y.
All right, we'll reset it, man. I almost like it when it doesn't work. It's almost like par for the course with what's going on. All right, I'll be right back. We'll make it happen.
Take a little break. Come right back. It's just me and you. Hope you all doing good out there. Here's Jensen again.
Oh, that was perfect, man. You got co-host material. I like it. Yeah, and the technology doesn't work. The restaurants don't work the way they're supposed to right now. It's really par for the course. One of the things I'm really interested in, you said you kind of made the transition into figuring out how to do the to-go food. Talk about that a little bit, because I think some restaurants are still to this point struggling with it. And as you're allowed to open, some restaurants might open who have not been open throughout this, might open for partial capacity, but then know that in a diminished capacity, they're still going to need to do to-go food. So they're trying to figure that piece out. So maybe talk about what that sit down, what that process was like for you all to be able to transition to a stronger to-go food program.
Yeah, it's really about shifting your attitude and perception about what your business is, because restaurants are a face-to-face business. People come in, we serve them face-to-face. It's a very kind of more intimate being. It's something that's more tangible, and it's an experience. And so really having to shift gears and to really change your mindset on what your focus is, because to-go delivery is basically, it's like order fulfillment, and it's a lot more kind of mechanical in that way, and thinking about it, it's about working with people online, like if you were to order something online from a business, from a clothing store or something, like it's kind of in that vein, and looking at it from that perspective, so now you have to interact with people on a different platform, online, and not face to face, and over the phone, and meeting people's expectations that way, and understanding what food is best to go, what food works, heat it up later, kind of like banquet food. I come from a culinary background, went to the CIA and used to be a chef and all that, and to understand what works to go and what doesn't, and being able to wrap your head around that, and meet that demand for that kind of offering. So it's a kind of a different business model. So we were able to really think about what that took and pivot pretty fast to get there. And I think sometimes it can be hard for people to understand that, and to understand it isn't the same atmosphere. This isn't the same culture as before. It's just weird and different, but we're still serving people at the end of the day. So I mean, you're still delivering meals, you're still feeding people, even though the whole platform's different. So that was one of the big things we changed.
So for you, being behind the bar, interacting face to face, as you're talking about, it's so important for you to guide your guests through kind of the experience that you have to present for them, and then find those opportunities for hospitality to really pull out of themselves the things that they want from you as a bartender, as a restaurant, and an operation. And so maybe touch on that a little bit. As you guys are doing curbside, you still do have some of that interaction. Talk about the guest, how important it is for the 5 people, 10 people, 100 people that come in any given day, because they're like unicorns right now. They're so much more important than we ever realized, I think, in the day-to-day of a restaurant. So talk about the guest a little bit from that perspective.
Yeah, I mean, the focus is still on guests. We're still here for them. This is in American Elm, especially because we are a neighborhood place. We're in the Highlands, and the people that we're serving are the people that live right here in the immediate vicinity. And we've always wanted and have positioned ourselves that way, as as a place for the people here. And it's still that way. I think one of the big things that we've done that show that is, there's a lot of delivery services out there, Grubhub and DoorDash, Uber Eats, all that. We wanted to, have our own delivery, and we wanted to be able to deliver to the people in our neighborhood for a very low charge. And so that was part of the business model that we did, is we built that into it, so that, if you live in the neighborhood, we're going to deliver to you for not very much, and we're still going to, feed you, and we're still going to make sure that you have food. So, that's something that's small that I think, we really wanted to focus on and provide as a service. So, it's difficult because, we have to stand far away from people. It's very hard to interact with people behind a mask, or, from a distance, and, to still make it feel personable, like you're not, some weirdo putting
Yeah.
a bag of food down on the table and be like, come get this, instead of handing it to them.
So
it's
awkward, huh?
it's a very awkward and alien landscape, because this industry is the total opposite of that. It's trying to make people feel comfortable and warm and inviting, and it's turned into something that can be cold in a lot of ways, and sterile, and which is what we want. We want things to be sterile, but it takes away from that, and we still try our best to make things warm and inviting, to provide that in different ways through warm and inviting kind of food, comfort food,
Yeah.
just little things here and there that really kind of bring that back into this. So
is your staff then doing the deliveries? You took that
yeah,
in-house? I think
yeah,
that's
we do
great.
deliveries. So one of the
Keeps a
things
couple
that
people working.
I was talking about before we got cut out was we've been fortunate enough to bring back a lot of staff on. So we were one of the businesses that got approved for the PPP loan,
Okay.
and it allowed us to rehire on some of our staffs, some of our servers, bartenders, cooks back on, which has been great because we've been really kind of running a skeleton crew and trying to make it work. But now we're able to expand things and to do more and provide more, because we have more people now, and we're able to pay them a pretty good wage, which is great. We want to make sure that our people are taken care of. So that's another way we've been, I think, fortunate to help our own people and bring it back on.
So let's talk about that a little bit, PPP, because it's such a huge topic. It was so polarizing in so many people's experience of it. So you guys were able to acquire that loan with the potential forgiveness, the 2-month timeline, all of these like really complicated, convoluted elements, boxes that you have to check to be able to qualify and all this. And so for you guys, maybe what was some of that thinking? For you, was it just, we'll figure the rest out later. We just got to get people back to work, and we'll keep going where we're going. And as soon as we can open, we'll open. Like, what was that like for you? Just a little bit of the sit down at the table again, just like you were doing with the to-go food. What was the thinking?
Our owner, Bob Ryder, is the one that made it all happen. He's the one that filled all the applications. I know he spent, a couple weeks and lots of hours reading, talking to people, understanding it, just wrapping his head around all of the different requirements and jargon and everything that that came with it, because it's a lot, and it's
A
it's a lot
lot.
of legalese, and it's a lot of this and that, and there's a lot of rules and stipulations and all kinds of things. So I don't think I can talk so much on that, the whole
Sure.
process, and what, because I don't know as much as he does. I know he works so hard on that, and he's been great to make that happen for us and to bring people back. But I can tell you that as soon as we had the money in our account, we were able to bring people back on, and I was definitely helping with the decisions on on getting people back, getting people working,
Yeah.
and making sure that they were employed. So
What was that moment like when you kind of get to bring the staff back? Did it feel good? It feels like, to me, it'd feel good to be able to put those people back to work, to be able to see those faces again, to be able to have them, whatever it is, get off the couch and just interact with some humans, because to your points you've made, we're fueled by that face-to-face interaction. So maybe touch on that a little bit, the energy that was in the room when you finally did get back together.
yeah, it was great. We let people know ahead of time. There was the potential that we could come back and let them know ahead of time.
Yeah.
And then when people finally did come back, the first day we had like a little orientation, and we brought everyone back in the same room, obviously apart from each other, and in masks and everything. But we basically kind of went over, because even though there are people that have been here since, some of the people have been here since we opened.
Yeah.
It's still like a new world, because we're not operating in the the same atmosphere or the same rules as we did before. And so we needed an orientation to bring people into the new culture. Like there's new standards and there's new procedures now, and we need people all on board and to understand the things that are different. But it was still exciting because so people haven't been able to do so much.
Yeah.
Some of the people haven't been able to work, and so definitely it's great to see people ready to be back and ready to want to do things and ready to get in and do the things they love, even though it's not necessarily the same job that they were before. The servers that we brought back on aren't serving anyone.
Right.
They're helping Expo and put food orders together and deliver and all that kind of stuff. So it's serving in a different capacity, but it's still serving. So it's
restaurant people.
It's been great.
Out, right?
I'm glad that we have them back, and I'm excited to bring back more people as eventually we do start to open up, which I don't know when that may be, or I know you brought that up about opening back up at different capacities and all that, but that's probably something worth talking about too, because that's the next step. Now that we've started to bring people back on and doing the delivery and takeout, which like you said earlier, is not going to go away now, because as we reopen and restaurants are allowed guests to come back in, people will come back in, and I'll be very happy to see people back in a bar or restaurant. But there are going to still be plenty of people that I don't think are going to be comfortable coming back quite yet. And now going on 2 months of people building this habit of ordering out, I think it's a habit that's kind of built in now, and I think it's definitely something that's here to stay, especially since this thing very well could come back in the fall, as people are suggesting it would. So it could be that October hits, November hits, we're back kind of in this thing where we are right now. So it's definitely something that is going to be part of our lives for a long time. And us as hospitality people in this industry, our whole job is really about adaptation and learning to adapt with everything. Because anyone who's ever worked in the kitchen or a restaurant knows that there's always something that goes wrong or something happens one day. It's always something different every day, And I think people like us are some of the best people when it comes to adapting and learning and being understanding and empathetic and really rolling with the punches. So that's just something that we're good at, and we've really I guess kind of latched onto. So
I think it comes up every single episode that we somehow handle bad news better than no news. We're so used to you're long on this table, refire this. We got an allergy ticket in, whatever those things are. We are fueled by bad news or difficult news, and the ability to bob and weave always. So it makes a lot of sense. You talked about some of the new standards that are being placed upon that. I'm very fascinated because it's such a personal decision for each business, for all the people within that business to figure out how to navigate this fucking crazy shit, Jesse. I mean, it's crazy. And how then is that conversation going? What are those standards? How do you all of a sudden become an expert on the way to keep your restaurant safe from coronavirus when the experts don't actually kind of know? You're trying to navigate that. What's that like? What are the standards that you're putting in place practically for your
spot? I think, that's a great point. It's really hard to know for sure, exactly what to do. You have the CDC and you have WHO, the World Health Organization. I think we're going to need to do a reset here, Jensen.
Robot voice again?
Yeah.
You say CDC and WHO, the interwebs freak out. All right, here we go.
Yeah. They're watching.
We're going to keep figuring shit out, Jesse.
Play some music in the background, some elevator music. Stand by.
And here we go.
All right. Yeah. So, there's definitely people out there, and organizations that are doing the best they can to provide most up-to-date, relevant kind of information.
Yeah.
And, you know, I know myself, I've been following that, trying to keep track of, you know, the latest recommendations, what works, you know, what could work. And I think the best thing that you can do, that we've done, is to be overly cautious and,
Yeah.
you know, to take recommendations and maybe take it a step further. And, you know, like I'm not wearing a mask right now, but there's no one here right now, you know, and
Yeah.
I'm in the dining room here at the restaurant, and the only other two people who are here right now are in the kitchen, you know. So otherwise, when we're
Who's in
here,
the kitchen right now? Let's give them a
we
shout out.
we have two chefs. We have Nacho, and we have Randy here right now. So
Love it.
prepping, but you know, but they're wearing masks right now. And when I go over there into the kitchen, I'm wearing a mask, and we're always wearing gloves, and we're always washing our hands, and we're avoiding being close to each other whenever possible. You know, it's a little harder on the line, but
Yeah.
you know, we're putting more caution to the things that we're doing to make sure that, you know, we limit any kind of contamination, you know, infection, anything like that. So that's what I think the overall like mantra is to be overly cautious, to do things a little bit more exaggerated, just to be sure, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Because the restaurant industry, when we follow standards, and look, let's be realistic, lots of restaurants don't, and you see people all the time be like, I have gloves on. You've been wearing the same pair of gloves for 3 straight hours. Those things are dirtier than your hands.
Yeah.
Yet, at the same time, when we do follow standards, we've all been trained and we understand the utmost sanitation techniques and standards. So the ability for us to then adapt to this moment and really be exaggerated and like hold steadfast those standards, but to your point, exaggerated in it. When I hear you say that, I think about the guest perspective, because there's the adage of people don't want to see how the sausage is made. Now people want to see exactly how the sausage is made. Transparency is going to be key. And so for you, when you're thinking about that and the way that you're interacting, potentially coming up soon in the dining room, have you thought about that a little bit behind the bar? Like, are you slapping mint anymore for building a cocktail? How are you tasting straws? Like any of those little nuanced things that we might pass on some of your thought process to other bartenders out there?
Yeah, and it's interesting because before we actually closed that week, the week before we closed on the 16th, they had already put procedures into place. Like we had to reduce our capacity down to 50 people at a time. We were already doing social distancing before we closed. And we put a bunch of practices into place when that happened, as far as like, you know, wearing gloves and how to handle things and washing all your produce very thoroughly, you know, every time you use it. Just all kinds of different things that we started putting into place. Like, you know, we had pens that were sanitized or not sanitized, you know, moving to paper menus, single-use menus. But that was before, I think, you know, that was over 2 months ago. And, you know, we've learned a lot since then, you know, and like now we're even more cautious. And now we're taking steps that are even farther than we were doing back then. So now, you know, going back when we come back to open up, I heard, I think yesterday in Mesa County, I think it was, they're reopening this week, but with some pretty strict guidelines. I haven't like confirmed it. I just heard this, you know, offhand from someone else. You know, like, you know, guests are required to wear masks over there. They have to be 10 feet apart. Servers have to wear disposable masks that they, you know, constantly change.
Yep.
So I don't know what the rules are going to be here. I imagine they'll probably be pretty strict, but I imagine we'll probably be even more strict with our own rules. Just because, you know, like you said, you know, it doesn't hurt to be overly cautious and to be overly prepared, especially when, you know, you're in front of people and, you know, you want to let them feel safe. You want them to know that they're being taken care of in all ways, you know, not just that they're being taken care of, you know, hospitality wise and food wise, but, you know, we're actually thinking about their safety and well-being. and we're concerned about, their experience here is a safe one, and they can come here knowing that we're doing everything we can to protect them and to protect our staff. So, that's the kind of the thing that we want people to know is when we do come back and we start bringing people back in, it's going to be something like no one's ever seen before. It's I don't think so, at least not in anyone's lifetime that I know of, where all the things that we've been learning, our whole restaurant lives about food safety and all that is going to be like put into overdrive, and it's going to be like a very like different looking kind of restaurant. And it's for the best. We want people to come in here knowing, hey, if I'm going to come eat out finally, I want to know that and be very certain that the place I'm going to go is going to be looking out for me at 100%. So
that's it. That level of communication, because that's hospitality. Looking out for them is hospitality. We've done it a certain way for a long time, and we got pretty good at it, and it's natural in us, and it's the way that we went around our business. Yet we're going to have to, two things are going to happen. We're going to have to simplify the way that we interact, and we're going to have to increase the way that we think about safety and sanitation in those interactions. And so you don't want to be the restaurant that opens up and gets blindsided and has some kind of outbreak come out of it in October or whenever, flu season comes around for whatever COVID ends up being in the future, because that is what could completely cripple a business. So the thoughtfulness, and then to your point of people want to know that they're going to be safe everywhere, no matter what, especially in a restaurant. The restaurants that do it the best of communicating the safety and protocols and the thoughtfulness in it they're going to be the ones that come out of this okay. So I really appreciate at every level, Jesse, how thoughtful Bob Ryder, the whole team has been. I'm excited that we got a couple of the unsung hospitality heroes, as we call them, Nacho, and was it Nacho and Randy?
Yep.
I love that. We have the Nacho Man, Randy Savage, in the kitchen, the tag team duo.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, you sure do, man.
New nickname for those guys. I love it. It's super important. All right, before we get to the playlist items, we always end with that. And it was amazing yesterday having a conversation with the icon, Ileana de la Vega. Has followed her for a long time, always been inspired by what she does.
Yeah, and that's so cool that you got her on there, because,
it was crazy.
Yeah, because I used to live in San Antonio before I moved here. So my dad's from San Antonio, my mom's from Denver. I have family in both cities. And, she was, when I first was there, she was one of the professors at CIA, and, definitely left a mark. She's just an incredible person. And she left the CIA to do, her restaurant that she has now, which is still there in Austin. And it's just so cool to see her on your podcast. Yeah, she has so much to say, and she knows so much. It's incredible.
Yeah, it was really cool. And I didn't know the connection between the two of you. And then you didn't even bring it up to me until we posted what our lineup was. And it turns out that teacher and student in back-to-back days was just like really cool. It's the serendipity of like always just hustle and communicate and connect people. And eventually, like, we're just so tight-knit, slightly incestual when it comes to the industry. The degrees of separation are pretty overlapping. So it's just really cool in this time to have like that underlying storyline of you and her having been together, and then now to be able to be together on this platform is super, super cool. And so, yeah, and somebody like that, like, what does it mean for you to get tutelage from somebody who's like, a living legend? What she has done to connect Oaxaca City, Mexican culinary traditions, students like yourself in the culinary world, and then her restaurant now in Austin, Texas. Like, what does that mean for you to be like connected to somebody like that?
Yeah, it definitely really inspired me because, after I left the CIA, I started working with a restaurant called Michelin in San Antonio, which is pretty famous in their own right, and they focus on Mexican food. I'm gonna have to restart one more time, Jensen.
Third time's the charm. Here we go for the final of the home stretch.
All right, yeah. All right. That was fast.
Right.
Well, yeah, not to take up too much time, but that place was, it was a 12-seat restaurant, and it was a multi-course place, but it was really about a place where you could really focus on the beauty of Mexican cuisine. And the thing was, every few months we would change the menu, and it would be a different part of Mexico. So one for a few months we do all of the cuisine from Yucatan, and then we do Chiapas, or then we do Sonora, or we do Puebla, and then we be able to show people a little glimpse, because Mexico is so diverse.
So diverse.
Every state has got its own thing going on. Oaxaca is its own microcosm of food and diversity, and then Chiapas right next to it is completely different. They're
Yep.
so different. And then so people have a lot of it's kind of fits right into Cinco de Mayo, which is today. People have a lot of stereotypical thoughts on Mexican cuisine and Mexico in general.
Yep.
And Michli, Ileana, we were all trying to show people that it's not all the same, and it's very different, and there's so much beautiful food, tradition, and culture that comes out of Mexico. And to me, she helped to spark that in me, and to really understand all of that, and to see the beauty and the diversity. So yeah, that's what really got me from her.
A little bit of a shout out for Cinco de Mayo, which is a true like celebration of more than just fucking margaritas and nachos, people. Like, this is maybe behind China the most diverse food culture in the entire world of Mexico. And so appreciate that. Also that Ileana and many others have been able to stay steadfast in providing the culinary traditions of Mexico without having to dumb it down and turn it into, just quesadillas and nachos and chimichangas being the pinnacle of what's possible when it comes to Mexican cuisine. So I'm grateful to that. And I'm glad that you got to be a part of that and are a part of that and are part of her story. And it's just so cool how that's interconnected. So I'm grateful that we got to have that little moment on each of your episodes of reflecting on the connection between the two of you, because we all have those stories. So I think it's great. Playlist items. What are a couple things you're listening to, reading, watching, playing, doing, anything to keep you motivated, energized, decompressed in this time?
So like in my previous life, I was really into music. I used to do sound engineering. I used to have a studio. I produced albums. I'm a drummer. I've been playing music since I was a little kid. So I mean, I'm still, I don't play in bands anymore, and I don't record, but music's still a huge part of my life, and I'm always listening to music. And right now, I'm listening through 3 huge playlists that I discovered. This guy made these playlists. They're basically songs from like every day from every year during the 90s, starting in 1990, January 1st, all the way through December 31st, 1999. And
wow.
It's taken me like over a week to go through it, but it's a little time capsule into music from the 90s, from every day all the way through. And it's really cool to see how the music progressed and changed. And it doesn't have all the big hits. It has a lot of the more indie, smaller hits, and it's really cool to see, artists when they first came out, and, different songs from them. And it's been really cool. So that's what I've been listening to.
You're not just listening to like Chumbawamba and Smash Mouth and Sugar Ray on repeat. That's good.
Oh yeah, right. They're on there, but
I'm sure. What's that playlist called? Where can people find it?
It is bring it up right here. It's by a guy. His name is Arun Karvna. I don't know if people can see that.
Let's see. Giant 90s alt indie etc. playlist. Okay. Giant 90s alt indie etc. playlist. Go find that if you're a kid of the 90s like us, for sure.
Yeah. So it's so cool. Like the guy, he's about my age too. We were both born in, I think, 1982. I mean, we by no means didn't like I mean, I went to high school during the 90s, but like I was still like 8 years old when 1990 came around, but it's cool to go back and relive the decade through a different lens. So yeah, I've been listening to a lot of that, all kinds of different
Love
music.
it.
One thing I have been reading a lot of.
Show us.
This guy.
Oh yeah.
Their new spirits level 3.
Yep.
They started doing spirits. This is their level 3 that they started doing.
Very cool.
Just last year. So obviously there's like no testing right now, but it's a good time to study.
Keep leveling up.
Level up, you know?
That's it. Jesse Torres, my friend, thank you so much. Love the thoughtfulness. That's really what I got take away from this, is how thoughtful you, your team, your ownership, your restaurant is being about your staff, your community. I think it's going to be what we need, because coming out of this, the thoughtfulness that we put back into the system is going to pay that hospitality forward for sure. It's the only opportunity that restaurants really have. So grateful for the conversation, and so glad the Ileana de la Vega connection. It just, man, it makes me smile that we're all in this together. And that maybe is a cliche thing at this moment, but it's so true. So I appreciate you, Jesse.
Thank you, Jensen. Thank you so much. And a little shout out to Linnea for hooking us up together. So really appreciate it.
Linnea Covington, good people connecting good people. It matters. It really matters. Jesse, have a great day.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
Cheers. Good people connecting good people. Yeah. We've Linnea Covington's rocking. Eric Skokin, Jesse Torres, Ali Rosen were all connections that she made, thought would be good guests, and she was right. So appreciate that. The personal decisions that each individual within the restaurant, each business is going to have to make is so true, because there are no blanket statements. There are no singular standards that are going to work. It's going to be about you and how you connect with your internal and external guests. So I appreciate how thoughtful Jesse is being about that in this moment and into the future. That is going to be very, very important. Tomorrow, 2 shows tomorrow, Wednesday. I think it's Wednesday. I don't know what day of the month it is, but I think it's Wednesday. Got Patrick Scott Armstrong, who is the host of the Lone Star Plate podcast based out of Austin, Texas. That is at noon Mountain, 1 p.m. Central, and then at 1 p.m. Mountain Time, which is noon Pacific. I can't keep all this straight. Noon Pacific. We have Eric Rivera, chef owner of Ado in Seattle, Washington. He's been on the live show, been on the full podcast as well. He just penned an op-ed for Eater where he really put a lot of the leaders, the visible celebrity chef type leaders, on blast for what he's calling their lack of leadership. And so we're going to unpack that a little bit and find out how that potentially is sparking a conversation about the way that we interact as individuals, as a community within hospitality, and what leadership really means. So should be a couple dynamic episodes tomorrow. Thanks as always. Appreciate you. Cheers.